Good morning. This is Talking Devils, the leading independent Manchester United podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Barton, joined by Manchester United legend Paul Parker. Good morning, Mr. Parker. How are you doing today?
I'm fine as it goes, Mr. Barton. Not bad at all.
Good.
Um, yeah, just looking for something uplifting today to lift me from that game yesterday. So
Don't worry, you'll get that on this podcast without question. You'll get it here from me, Paul. Don't worry, that's a Monday morning sorted. If you're watching, if you can like and subscribe. If you're watching on Twitter, please go over on to YouTube and like and subscribe there as well. Paul, Grand National this weekend. Did you back the winner?
um, I didn't. But one of the worst things that can ever happen is that your wife goes and does it. And
Yeah.
what makes it even worse is that I was one who put the bet on for her, and
Oh,
she was doing it in a panic one, and she went. You know the old ones where people look through things. They look for things that relate.
yeah.
Well, my wife is a bit of a salad eater, so she loves a rocket salad. And her name's Nicola, so the horse was called Nick, Nick's Rocket.
Yep.
So
Oh,
she
well,
done that. I done it on an each way. I'm not a gambler, so I always do each ways.
yeah.
So I done it. Went and done it for a £10 each way. She come out of it. 30. She come out of about 430 quid.
Nice. My mother-in-law won as well.
Yeah.
I think she had the top three. And
No. Oh well, that's serious.
well, this is the thing, right? My sister-in-law like made a quip said, "Oh well, if you put money on every horse, then you're bound to win." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't win. That's how you lose." Yeah, but she was dead happy with it. Um, I was wise. I didn't put any money on anything. There was nothing in there that said there was nothing that said Amrim's 343 that stuck out to me. I'm like, all right, I won't bother with that then. Guys, if you're watching this as well, obviously you know recently I released a book, Football Talk by Matt Busby. I'm going to give it a little plug here. It's available everywhere on Amazon, all the good book places and all the bad ones as well. We've got a couple of good mornings to get to. Johnny says, "Morning, gents. Hope you're both well. Football nowadays is boring." Well, okay. Box says, yo, okay. Morning, Box. How are you doing? Apologies in advance for my A fever. As you can tell, it's obviously playing havoc with my ability to talk. That's my excuse. Anyway, Manchester United nil, Manchester City nil. Paul, there have been boring derbies in recent years. There have been exciting ones as well. Like the last one at the Etihad was quite exciting in the last 5 or 10 minutes. This one, I mean, from maybe an hour, it seemed like it was destined to finish nil-nil. What did you make of the game as a spectacle?
The thing about it is that I was just kind of caught up about working on the game. There was nothing dragging me to it. You just look. Everything about the game, I think, was people just didn't believe they was going to see some kind of spectacle just by the way both teams have been this season. Wayne, there was nothing there or any reason why you felt you was going to get something because there was really nothing on the line. We can say, "Oh, City still looking for a guaranteed fall for Champions League," but it's not really what anyone wanted, and the game lived up to I think the way the majority thought it might do, and the fact of being tedious and it seems like now someone's taken a handbrake off of Gary Neville and said you can tell the truth a little bit about our game and he had a go at the game the way it was, the football that's been played in today's football, and I've been saying it for months, for ages. Football has become tedious in the so-called best league in the world. Everyone's playing the same. I've been using the word systematic for months and months and months, robotic for
Yeah,
months and months and months. Now it seems like they're given permission for the people they pay fortunes to actually say it when a lot of people have been saying it for ages in the minor roles of media, but everyone wouldn't say anything because they still want to paint this great picture of what we see in the league. Everyone is doing the same thing. There's nothing different. Well, not everyone, because I'm being disrespectful, more so to Nottingham Forest of most teams, because Nottingham Forest are quite an exciting team to watch because they're a bit old fashioned with their wing play. But the rest of it is seriously tedious, and how that game was. You knew what was going to happen next. I was watching Manchester City play and what they were doing 6, 7 years ago. The difference is that the quality wasn't there. There was no energy. They had no, I mean, I'm watching Kevin De Bruyne run. I think people were just pulling the rug back on him. There was nothing there. The midfield was just they could pass the ball, but none of them could run. Gundogan has left all his football capabilities in Spain. It was just poor. And you might notice I'm talking about Man City players. I wouldn't even want to go at the moment on United players, but it was a poor spectacle of football. When you look at that, that's generally one of the people said to you, what's in the start of the season, what are the 10 games you're looking forward to seeing this season? The Manchester Derby would always be there. Would always be there for people to see. And I don't just mean people in the Northwest. I mean people all over this country would want to watch that game because they're watching one of the biggest clubs in the world, and then they're watching another team who have been winning things, but they're watching two teams from one of the major cities in this country, and they got nothing yesterday, absolutely nothing. They got really a lot of people saying, mostly walked away saying, "I knew that was going to happen." Yeah, that's exactly what I thought, and there you are.
Yeah. The derby was boring, not as boring as the first derby during the COVID era at Old Trafford, which was 0-0 and had the empty stadium box. Come on, no one's remembering that. If you're the one, I feel sorry that you remember that. Um, I feel sorry that I don't remember yesterday and talk about it. Although Paul and I probably talked about it at the time. Noticing the foreign league's two new school managers following the same blueprints of Pep style, it only works. It's a system that only works if you've got good players. That's the problem. And when they're aging and tired like they were yesterday, I mean, you're quite right on De Bruyne's pace, Paul, but he's still quicker than Dallo when he did that run, which was,
Oh,
um, yeah. Some good points here. Box here says Doku, Savio, Grealish, and not a patch on Morris, Sterling, and Alvarez. That's what I thought when I was watching that yesterday. I was thinking, yeah, this is a massive drop off in this City team. Obviously, as well, the compromise that Guardiola made maybe 3 or 4 years ago when he brought in Haaland, it was kind of like because he never played a game. Like, they won 2 titles, didn't they? Playing without a striker.
hmm.
Aguero was injured. Aguero was injured for most of the time, and then he brought in Haaland and had this target man, and they started to play completely different. I mean, the boring teams into submission anyway, which is one thing, but like the way that they were doing it then, it's just because they had, they went and won the treble, obviously, and they had all the best players winning in that way, and it was just at some point it becomes unentertaining, and the game revolts as it started to do. Um, Johnny says, exactly, Paul. Seems to be only two ways of playing possession or defensive counter attack. Well, we'll talk about what did happen though. United fashioned some of the better chances. I felt like there were some entertaining moments in there from United. They were threatening to get out. Garnacho, I thought for the first half actually played quite well. His decision making let him down as he often does, but he did quite well. Hoyland though, missing as always, and Arno frustrated as usual. Fernandez quite good. Um, you think that United probably end the game frustrated that they didn't win it?
I think when you look at maybe the way they finished the game and the substitutions for a change made a difference on the attacking side, definitely picked up on that side of it. Yes, I suppose so, but no one deserved to win the game, Wayne, really, to be perfectly honest. If anyone had nicked it, would they have been jumping around, screaming and shouting about it? Would the fans have been going mad? Not really, because the game didn't have any bite about it at all. There was nothing. Um, I mean, Diaz got booked very, very early, and you look at it and think, of, did the referee really have to book him that early? I mean, yes, okay, Canacho went down on the edge of the box, but after that, there was nothing really to talk about. There wasn't anything there. Casemiro had a slide, won the ball cleanly, but when you look at the way they want to play football now with this momentum ruling, he should maybe have been booked, but he didn't. And they're things that I can remember. But when I look at the game, there wasn't a lot to talk about on that side of it. I just think 0-0 was fair in the end, to be perfectly honest. But United threatened, look more threatening than City. City will, if we go back to Pep ball, City, or all the stats people, all of them, the ones who look at the game through stats rather than actually watching the game, will say that City had the ball longer, and then they'll talk about City's passing and everything. But you just have to be there and watch a game. You don't need stats to know. But at the end of the day, United were the team who looked more likely to score every time they went forward, while City were basically passing for the sake of passing with no end product. Mamouche was always a threat, but he was on his own. He had no one to link with. He
Yeah.
had no one at all to. I looked in the first half at City and I said, they've got to bring on wide players. They need to bring on wide players. If you're going to hurt Manchester United, you get someone to threaten Dalot. And your last question about Dorgu. Dorgu, I thought, got better as the game went on, didn't start well, but
Yeah.
Dalot was Dalot. A yellow card had to come. Doesn't want to defend, won't even try to work his feet. Got a yellow card, but I thought to myself, Doku now, and what happens? Doku stops threatening him. A few little dances on the spot, touching the ball 1,000 times without the ball moving, and then he just passes it backwards. So he didn't threaten Dallo after he got a yellow card. So the game was, I think someone looked like someone just chatted before and said we'll take a 0-0.
Did you think the first thing, the foul on the line, penalty?
No, always was outside the box.
Yeah.
Always was the first contact. Everything was out. Just the way that Diaz is, just his react. Everything told me that was never going to be. And to be fair, I thought the referee was excellent because he was close to every bit where the people would dive in. He was so close to the ball with every incident. He saw that himself. He didn't need to be told. He made his mind up, and it was nowhere near a penalty. But if Garnacho had better control of the ball and a little bit more pace, he would have got into the box, and everything says he would have got shot off. But because he lacks a touch in those kind of areas and he lacks pace, he couldn't get there because the City defence have got no pace at all, no pace, and couldn't get behind them.
Yeah, similar position to where he scored in the Community Shield, though. To be fair, as well, and I feel like that element of him hasn't kicked on this season. Um,
Yeah,
Box is
it
here. Yeah,
hasn't.
but that happens with some players as well. It might kick on next season. Hopefully, it might be some time for some kind of improvement at the end of this one as well. Box says it was similar to the Arsenal game a few weeks ago, although Arsenal were better than City. A fairly even game, but we ended the stronger. Yeah, but this is the thing, it was similar. All of the intensity not in the game, and maybe that is something to do with the poor status of the league this season. The competitive element of it is just completely sucked out, and like it's horrible to watch. Like, I mean, United are not innocent in this. Like they wrote off this season in November. So United, like what you want to see now, you've got three things that you want to see from United. You want to win, you want to play well, you want to see signs of progression. And too often, like we watched, there was that moment, wasn't it? Was it just 1 minute period in the first half where nobody could complete a pass, and it ended with Casemiro just belting it out of play, and it was like embarrassing just to watch. Like from both sides, they just couldn't keep hold of the ball. Um, what do you make of that, Paul? I mean, you didn't win, played moderately well. I mean, didn't play awful. Is that a sign of progression? Is that something you look at and you say, "All right, well, he's moving forward. We weren't awful."
I want to say yes to that, Wayne, but then I'm talking about Manchester United and everything what they should be about, and it's like I'm being negative by saying that because how bad things were. The only thing I can say that the only progression that happened throughout in that game in that 90 odd minutes was when he made the substitutions.
Yeah,
That was progression because he did something. Harry Maguire wasn't injured. You could see by his face the way he come off, he wasn't happy about it.
Yeah.
But he made that substitution. Mount come on and was a threat. Didn't do himself a favour getting booked so early and ridiculously booked as well by what he'd done. But Xerxes come on. Those three made a difference because all of a sudden, and Lindelof, who I praised after the Arsenal game,
Yeah.
because every time he got the ball, he stepped forward. He passed it early. He moved it early. And what the United, as through the years, through the decades, as the way they always played was always with a tempo.
Yeah.
And they're not a team. If you're not a ball, if you don't keep the ball, you're not that kind of team. You can't pass as slow as they do. Again, when Harry Maguire plays, the game is so slow. He takes him off, and the game quickens up. Mount comes on, so he's got energy. He's got legs to get around. Xerxes comes on. Within the space of 2 minutes, he's touched it more than Hoyland.
Yeah.
He's done something positive on his first touch, his first part of the game, more than Hoyland. So the substitutions ended up being very positive, and it made Manchester United look better as an attacking side. So in that way, that was progression from where it had been prior to those substitutions. But if you can look at that game as a whole and look at previous games and performances, then I'm gonna have to say no. I don't think United can look at it as progression. I think progression's going to come when the season finishes and what's going to happen off the field
Yeah.
to make something happen on the field. Because if that doesn't happen off the field, then there's no progression, and it is going to be an incredible season, incredible um, pre-season of negativity off the pitch. And if you're one of those players who looks at yourself and thinks you're better than him over there, you're going to be looking around for different people to be sitting around you who you believe are going to make your team better. And at this moment, can anyone really believe that's going to happen?
Yeah.
So,
No,
I
I'm,
can't.
I'm completely with you on that. And it's like not one to be negative when you look at like this state of play at the moment, but I think when you look at the edicts that was passed down from the change of manager and the way that we've looked at the rest of the season, it's kind of like, well, this is the message that the club have sent that you've got to see that progression there from the manager. This is the risk that we're taking. So you do want to see more because you can't. They've even everyone has said it. There's not going to be loads of money to spend in the summer. There's not a lot of manoeuvrability there with the current squad. But you've written off of this season, and you're expecting them to perform in a way that you were telling everyone that they can't, which is a very, very dangerous game to play. And I think that it sort of leads to the morale dropping in the way that it has done. Because I don't think, I've said it numerous times, I don't think that things had to get this bad. And now it looks like we've got more problems than necessary, or than I felt that we had at the time. Box says here, big if, but Mount fit would be a good player under Amrim. I think that's fair. It's a good point to make in this system. The little bits that we've seen about, it looks like he'd probably fit in what Amrim wants him to do, but I'm still not convinced that it's completely attractive to watch. I mean, you go back to the Forest game, we'll lose 1-0, and everyone after that was saying, oh, well, we played better. I watched that game, I felt completely flat. I felt from the moment they scored, I didn't feel confident that we created a chance to score. We created quite little. We had a couple of passages of neat where we were neat on the ball, and that was seen as improvement because Forest have done well. And I don't know if I look at that game and yesterday, and I look at 180 minutes of rarely looking like we were going to score, maybe two or three good passages of play overall. But that's what's constituting progress at the moment. And I feel like, I'm looking at that I don't feel like we're a critical podcast or critical as a pair when we talk about it. I think we're both fair with managers and also giving credit where it's due when a player recovers from a poor time. But I think, everyone is still saying that we need change and the manager's still saying that. And I think, well, what are we actually looking for from these players in this period of time? I just think you need to be stressing the thing that every single game at Manchester United is important. So we needed this 4 or 5 months period to really be kicking on with these players. And to sort of like say, well, we're not going to go anywhere with this squad again, I just think it's a really, really dangerous. I think obviously, so one positive is we're not getting those large defeats versus the top six sides this season. Yeah, but I mean, do we look any good? I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying, but I still don't know if that's if I'm seeing something that I think that this is long term investment in this system and in this squad and in this manager. I just don't know if they're there. What can we see, Paul, from this? Because we're obviously going to finish lower mid table. We want to win in Europe. That's a real roll of the dice at this point in time. We'll get to Leon in a moment. What do we see in the next sort of handful of games? What can we see that's going to be progress? Or is it like the message is literally now we're just waiting for the summer?
Yeah, I think that's I think that's it more than anything. The only thing that's keeping it alive is Europe. Europe, I mean, it's just it's just it's what's kept everyone alive. Otherwise, there'll be a lot more negativity out there. That
Yeah,
Manchester derby could have been horrendous if United weren't in Europe. It was
yeah,
a whole thing. So it is about getting to the end of the season as quick as possible, but not in control of that. The dates are set, and when that season finishes, I think you just got to. The sayings used to be when you wanted people to move on in life is give them their cards and they've got to move on. But it doesn't work that way in football. You've got people who will just sit there and be content to pick up their big money, knowing wherever they go next, they're not going to be able to earn the same money. They know they're going to have to work a damn sight harder to earn money because they'll be involved in more incentive-based wages rather than a wage which fills their belly every single week. So they're going to have to work that bit harder. So they're not going to go easy. And the thing about it is that they're stagnating. They're making the bigger picture is that where if they go anywhere else, they're not going to be trusted. They'll have to sit around after they stop playing football, and they're going to be around. And when people talk to them, in the back of those people's minds is they're going to be questioning them and what they done while I was at Manchester United, which for a lot of them was absolutely nothing, to be perfectly honest. But there's too many players, and I've said it 1,000 times, Wayne, who have been through too many managers. And when I hear some supporters when they go, "Are you Almarin in or out?" I just turn and say, I virtually look at them and say, "Are you serious? Are you absolutely serious?" What a stupid question that is, given how United have been with managers. It's absolutely ridiculous. Haven't you or they realised that changing managers has made no difference at all? Trophies have been won, but everything around those trophies has been absolutely awful. There's been no continuity at all what has happened to Manchester United since 2013. So it is about now the players they've got, and if it needs 8, 9 players who are just there because of their work ethic, their love of wanting to play for Manchester United, the fact of they want to be there at the beginning of maybe something good. Go out and go and get those players. You're not going to win every single game, but I'll tell you what, you're going to get guaranteed better workmanlike performances and more chance of winning games of football. Most importantly, you are going to get more more loyalty, more of a work ethic with players who want to play for the club because they want to achieve something, knowing if you achieve anything positive for Manchester United, you're out there.
yeah,
And that's what it should be about.
yeah. No, 100%. I do find it amusing that like this sort of narrative over the last couple of months of like, look at how well McTominay's done, look how well Elanga's done, and these players can be free of Old Trafford and do well. Well, they're missing two important things. The first thing is that those two are homegrown products, so you're never going to have a problem with effort and application. Generally, I mean, the jury's out on Garnacho, but I felt like he probably applied himself quite well yesterday. But generally speaking, United youth products, you're always going to get that effort and commitment. The second thing is those players were wanted by other clubs and they were signed by other clubs. What we are left with are the players that the other clubs didn't want. They didn't want to sign Maguire, and they didn't want to sign Dallo, and they didn't want to sign all the other players that we've been left with. That's why we've got what we've got, and why those players are going and doing what they are doing. Box says here Leon are hitting form in 2025. Cherky is a danger man, has a £25 million release clause in the summer. Yeah, there are a few bargains coming up in the summer, really. United could be all over them. Not necessarily saying that he's the right man, but there are some bargains to be had this summer, so some reason to be optimistic. Whether or not we can be optimistic about United's chances in um, this tie is another kettle of fish altogether. Paul, what do you think of this? Because I mean, I looked at the state of the French league and PSG unbeaten. We've already, I mean, won it miles and miles in front. So it's difficult to again assess the strength of the French league, but I think Lyon will be tricky. They are growing in confidence, like Box says. They've got a good run of form going. They're not going to be thinking. They're not going to be overawed by facing United. Even the good Lyon sides in the past when we played them, we had difficult games against them. So they're going to be looking at this side. Is it good that we're playing away first? Like maybe it is. I don't really know. It's difficult to see with this United side.
I, I think always in Europe is always, even even though things have changed of the away goal rule, but I think it's always better that way. So any positivity you get from the away game, you can bring it home with you, rather rather than the other way round. And given how United are, I think it just might suit them that way anyway to be at home. And saw that in the previous round as well. But and look at the French league, and the French league have had a. I mean, PSG started it. They decided, you know, we're not going to go out and we're not going to become a circus now with our players. And they've gone a little bit more homebred, more
Yeah,
French-speaking players. And look how they've gone. You know, at the moment in time, they've never looked so good in the Champions League.
fair.
And you look, and a lot of the other French sides have gone that way, more French in that side of it. So they've gone a little bit more home based, and I think that just gives a whole league that little bit more unity about what they're trying to achieve. It will definitely help them on the international side as well
Yeah,
by doing something like that as well. And to be honest, we should be doing something like that, but we won't because money talks. But so when we look at it, they're there. They're there for a reason. You know, PSG, of course, who showed over two legs against Liverpool how much better they were than Liverpool. And you look at Lyon and you can't dismiss them, regardless of on the very good on the counter. And as I've said 1,000 times again already, United haven't got any pace in the team, so they're gonna have to again maybe sit a little bit deeper and maybe work it sometimes. Don't consistently or sit back because you just allow a team then to control the ball, but you sometimes have to squeeze. But more than anything, it's about knowing when to drop. So it's one of those games that I must say I'm quite looking forward to watch. Fingers crossed that United get through the two legs because I want this season kept alive as long as possible because I'm worried that if it isn't at least a final to go into, it's just going to become very toxic very, very quickly.
yeah. I mean, the good thing is that we're in April and still got something to play for. Whereas
100%, yeah.
we, we've been sat here in the past in seasons and gone like we've done literally nothing. We
Mm.
don't know what you're talking about. Whether or not United can keep that momentum going in the league is going to be another thing as well. Yeah, it's difficult to know what to expect on Thursday, but on Sunday they play Newcastle away, which I mean their first home game since winning a trophy, right?
Mm,
Did they play?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, because they're away tonight. Yes, yes.
So yeah, it doesn't. Well, I don't think United have got a win there for a few years as well.
Mm.
It doesn't really bode well, does it? You would expect we're going to get the runaround.
Yes, definitely going to get. It's going to be all energy, and of course, always got to remember that Newcastle are trying to make this into some kind of grudge, grudge fixture. There's animosity between the two clubs and everything. When there's nothing there, to be perfectly honest, everyone just knows that Manchester United are going to Newcastle. It's just going to be sold out, and it's just going to be loud, and it will again test a few of the players to be perfectly honest. That the derby game and then the European game, and then going into another big game. In normal circumstances, you would turn around and say, or a manager would always believe that he hasn't really got to get his players up because when you have a derby game and then you're going into Europe and then you've got Newcastle at St James's Park, You haven't got to worry. The players should be there, ready for it and prepared and ready to go. No motivation needed. But he doesn't know what he's going to get. He doesn't know, and he can't really go and, as managers do, swap around too much because he hasn't got that kind of squad. He's got numbers, but the numbers that he can actually use and give him a chance of getting something from the game are very, very thin because he just can't trust a lot of them.
Yeah, I know. You would be thinking we'd be a bit more positive this morning that, United didn't lose yesterday. Didn't really look like losing either. Do you know what I mean? They were never under any pressure. I think the mechanical structure of Manchester City remains the same kind of thing. Like there was a moment where De Bruyne sort of in the second half where he got into a position where he crossed and they didn't get there at the end of it. It was like that was like a sort of flickering of the old City, but the rest of the time it didn't look like just pass him for the sake of it, which is I think is the danger of the league at the moment. I feel like a lot of everything is for the sake of it. You don't see
Yeah,
over the weekend. I posted this thread on Twitter. I was like the most United goals, style goals, and one of them was the Dennis Irwin goal at Wimbledon that you played a part in.
mm,
And I didn't put this in the tweet, and I should have put it because the point I was making about that goal in particular was that every pass had purpose. They were looking for a solution that brought us closer to scoring a goal. That was what was good about the team that you played in, but also good about the good United sides that attacked on counter attacks. That every pass was incisive and played with the point of getting closer to goal or trying to find an opening to score a goal. I know that the Barcelona system was different. I've talked to players about this at some length where they talk about it was being there to wear down opponents. You know what I mean? Ferguson called it the carousel, didn't it? But when you put players on the carousel, you just pass the ball around and you're doing it to wear opponents out. And I feel like over some time, that's difficult. It's a different thing when it's Iniesta and Xavi doing it because that's still with a purpose. They're doing it to wear you out, and they've still got the state of mind to kill you off. I honestly feel like the present iteration of whatever this style of football is, I think players on instinctive enough to kill you off. So you still wear opponents out, but you've grown that tired of the nonsense of passing the ball around. And there's no one with the clinical edge to take advantage of it anymore. It's so strange to watch it.
yeah. But the thing about it, Wayne, is that it's not. There's always the strength. There's always that edge there with these players of today. The problem is a lot of the edge has been taken away from them, and ones who have come through academies, a lot have been taken. Someone has taken away a lot of their football, so
Yeah,
they fit a system so it makes it easier for the manager and the coaches to control that player. Taken away, you're a maverick. Take away that edge from, make them fearful of giving the ball away, and all these stats that keep showing up. Players are looking at them and going, "Oh, I don't want to be that person who's giving the ball away that much," or I'm doing this. And when you talk about football and how United were playing during my time, I've just seen Norwich City away 92-93 come out in the second half, and Peter Schmeichel with a throw out and the pace of the players going forward. Incy running almost like the pace of an Olympic sprinter, but controlling the ball, and he runs straight wade through for the defence there. And there was another game. There was too many games. There was one with Giggsy as well involved in the game, and it was just incredible. And that was and was it? Did we actually go out in the training field? And did Brian Kidd? Did we have to do that and do that? No, it wasn't about that. Virtually, it was about we're bringing you together. We want you to solve problems. We
yeah,
want you to think for yourself what you're going to do next. I didn't have a system. I just knew I had to win it. And when I won it, could I find someone who could do something better than me? There were an awful lot of them who could do that, by the way. But and that's what it was about. Lucky enough to have played with Eric. We were told by the gaffer, if Eric asks for the ball, give it to him because he can do maybe things better than what you can. Thank you very much. That suits me fine because I know my strengths and limitations. But now they're virtually told. I mean, we heard Marasco talking about Enzo Fernandez, about him passing forward. No, Chelsea fans are going mad because there was an opportunity for them to go route one to score. He virtually said no. He knows not to do that. He knows to keep the ball. And you talk about Dennis with the goal he scored. How many how many goals did we saw when you see Sparky's volley against Wimbledon? We've seen an Eric volley against Wimbledon from outside the box. No one is shooting. How many great goals are we seeing now? We're not, because the stats is stupid XG rubbish that we're
Yeah.
seeing now. And if you see these people, as I see them week in, week out, Wayne, I'm sitting in press boxes. 5 minutes before half time, I'm watching these people who think they're $1 million, by the way, because they're running down the steps from the press bit all around me with their club tracksuits on, running down, holding a laptop. And
Yeah.
they're going down, going, look, everyone knows we're involved with them. And look, and then all they do is look like they've been let out the weekend from university, to be perfectly honest. They've got nothing football about them. And
Was it?
and
Sorry, was
sorry.
it Van Nistelrooy who was talking about XG lately when he said like someone had put the point to him about like point something at XG, and he said, "Yeah, but that point XG is the quality of the chance. It's a different. If I'm in front of that chance, I'm going to score it. If you're in front of it, you're not going to score it." He was talking. I think he was having a conversation with a
Yeah,
journalist. So they were the calculation of the chance is based on the quality of the chance, not on the likelihood of scoring based on
yeah.
who's it's a really good point that Van Nistelrooy made, and it's sort of that to me underlined the idiocy of the statistics. I get them, they are useful to some extent.
Well, they are, unless you watch 90 minutes of football and you judge someone. And I'd watch a player and you'd look at him, you think his work ethic, you look at that. When someone says, oh, he was poor, his assists and that, he was poor, he didn't create an opportunity. I think, I'll tell you what, his teammates, he'd get an award at the end of the season if he performs like that for
Yeah,
what he's putting in. And that's how you should judge games. Have a look after, but I'm just not having this. This whole thing is about selling the game again. It's for a market value to America. It looks good, and America will just live off of that. Football's too, it just doesn't work that way. Too subjective football for it to be that way. So in theory, um, if everyone started taking pot shots from outside the box, just being their own men, saying, I'm going to make my own decision. I'm going to do that and try that. And if they keep doing that and shooting from distance, the whole thing changes because there's nothing they can gauge from. Because that XG or whatever is all about 6, 7 yards from goal and doing things from there.
yeah,
If you shoot from the distance, you blow it out the water because they've got nothing there. And the one thing about it, if you start shooting from distance, teams will step forwards. And that's the way it was. You make nice little passes in front of people, they've got to come and get the ball. The moment they step forward, you pass it behind them. But teams just are content to pass in front and hope they've got one player or give them something. Now, could you imagine Scholesy playing this football? Scholesy couldn't play this football. He wouldn't play. He'll call it nonsense. Keno would call it nonsense, and Eric, there's no way. Eric would be unsignable because at least teams wouldn't sign Eric because Eric would be looking for balls. He would be looking for positive balls, not negative balls.
yeah.
And he wouldn't want to be dropping deep and getting the ball off the centre half and look at me. I don't give the ball. I get 99% pass rate every game. I'm doing this. In other words, you become Jordan Henderson.
Yeah.
So it's waffle.
No, I used to think that about Giggs, one of my favourite players growing up, and like towards the latter end of his career, he was still a player who took chances that other players didn't take. His pass completion in some games must be like 60%, but it was the efforts that he was trying to make. Do you know what I mean? That
Hmm.
the vision that he saw, um, those kind of things are why United remained as successful as they were for such a long period of time. But anyway, that's us complaining about the state of the game at the moment. But you complaining about it in the comments as well. Like, yeah, all right, Liverpool are going to win the title, deservedly so, even in spite of their loss to Paul's mighty Fulham yesterday. But they're still going to win the title at a considerable distance because Arsenal will just keep bottling it like they do. But in Southampton, like Box said, the earliest relegation in Premier League history, I didn't realise that. I thought Derby still held the record for that. But
But that
Tells you,
tells you again. That tells you again about the league because
yeah,
it's that early. Because when I heard that yesterday, I kind of went, "But what about Derby?" But it tells you. It tells you really, in my opinion, the state of the league.
yeah,
And I worry again. I mean, next season. I mean, I was with someone yesterday when I was working, and he's a Watford fan, and he virtually just said, he goes, "I really want Watford to do well." He goes, "But I don't want promotion because I don't have to live through that." What happens, what would happen to the team they go in that division. I don't want to get to the point of feeling I've got to slag one of my players off, knowing at the end of the day he can't do anything about it because of what we are at this moment. And great, the club gets a load of money. Where does that money go? Does it go to the club to improve the team? He goes, no, it won't. He goes, but what's the point in spending fortunes to improve the team, still knowing that you're still going to be struggling? And he goes, you're not getting any help from the Premier League. The Premier League don't want to give anyone help coming up because virtually they want the league closed off. They don't want.
yeah,
I don't think they want promotion and relegation the way they are because anyone coming up, they virtually saying, "Oh, come up, enjoy it," but you can't spend.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
just not. It's just not enjoyable. I feel sorry. I feel sorry for the team. I feel sorry for the supporters. Sorry, the supporters should be there. They should enjoy that moment when once they get promotion. The teams, that bit after the game, the whole thing, maybe the celebration of an open top bus. But by the time it gets to the end of July, by the time it gets to the end of July, those fans are just there going, "Here we go," and then they'll expect the prices to go up as well. It's not fun anymore.
yeah. Box says the only team with the budget power from the Championship that has a chance of survival is probably Leeds, and even they will struggle. Yeah, it's probably fair as well. But also, the state of the league at the moment, I know Liverpool are running away with it, and that indicates that this isn't the case. But I feel like the entire perception of the Premier League as a viable competition is a mockery until they sort out what's happening with City and the
Mm.
amount of time that that's been allowed to run on. And everything hangs on what happens as a consequence of this. Because if you say that City can do what they're doing, then Newcastle can do what they're doing even worse. And you're just going to close off that top part for the next 10 years, you know. Anyway, that's us done complaining this morning. We'll be back next week. We could easily be talking about United for 1 foot in the semi-final in the Europa League. Easily could be talking about that. However, we could just as easily be talking about no goals in 4 games, and is that progress? We could be talking about another 2-0 and going, are we seeing progress from this? You just really don't know what you're going to get from this United side at the moment, and somehow we can still manage to find best part of an hour talking about it every Monday morning. Thanks for everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Um, like said earlier, if you can subscribe, like to the channel, really appreciate it. And if you're watching and want to get a copy of my book, Football Talk by Matt Busby, giving the plug again here, feel free to do that and share the posts far and wide. Thank you for your patience with all my promotion of that as well. Really appreciate it. And we will be back next week to talk about, hopefully, 2 promising 0-0 draws that we can build our hopes on for the rest of the season.